just because you used to be friends does not mean you were friends for the right reasons. And if you don't understand the reasons, it's really hard to actually understand the friendship.
How many of your friends were geography? How many of your friends were convenience? And then how many of your friends really were aligned based on mutual goals, mutual core values, mutual core beliefs?
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1401. Are you stuck in an old identity? Today, for episode number 1402, 3 reasons many early friendships don't last. I was getting ready for bed last night, and I was laying in bed, and I was thinking about this episode. And I was thinking of when I was younger, 2 of my best friends literally lived within 2 minutes of me. One friend I met at the bus stop when we were in, I don't know, maybe like 2nd grade or 3rd grade. The other friend, so friend 1 and we used to ride our scooters down this big hill.
I remember the scooters, the Razor.
The Razor scooters.
Razor scooters
pretty
were
badass.
The most legit.
Yeah. I was a pretty, whatever. I was pretty badass.
Same.
So we'd go.
Wait.
Yeah.
Did you ever lower the handlebars all the way?
Yeah.
Because these were like those fold-up ones.
And sit on it?
And sit on it.
Of course.
Did
you have a wheelie bar?
I did.
Yeah, same.
I did.
Did you have light up wheelie bar?
No.
Yeah, you ain't shit. Pardon my French.
And that's the episode.
That's the episode. I'm going to berate Alan on his lack of scooter hygiene.
I used to cook down
we actually used to cook down the biggest hill in town.
Quarry Hill.
It's the big one.
The biggest hill, yes.
Okay. We used to go cooking down this hill.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this family that had a son and a daughter, and they used to be jumping on a trampoline in their backyard. And one day the dad said, "Hey, you guys want to come jump on the tramp?" And we were like, "What are you even talking about? What do you mean? What is this tramp you're talking about?" He's like, "The trampoline over there." So we ended up going and jumping on the trampoline. Boom. Now we're the 3 best friends anybody could ever have. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I was thinking of this the other day because I was on a podcast and we were talking about friends. And if you listen to this, you know I'm very big on asking yourself the hard question, are the people in my life the best from my past or the best from my future? And when I was on this podcast, I said, you have to understand, a lot of the people that are in our lives for one of these 3 reasons. And this just all popped into my head, so I figured we'll do an episode on it. 1, geography. As I just mentioned, the 2 best friends I had growing up were the 2 friends closest to me. Geoglyphly. For those who used to listen to the Hyperconscious podcast, that was the intro. It is maybe the worst intro ever of all time for a podcast.
What episode should people listen to if they want to hear the old terrible intro?
I don't really know. Maybe
35 or something?
Yeah, no, I don't even think I would say probably go to 60. Probably be safe with 60.
Okay.
So go check that out.
But only listen to the intro.
Yeah. Don't listen to any of the rest of it. The intro is bad too. Everything's bad. 1, geography. So you live close to these people. 2, convenience. They're the easiest people around you. They're the only options maybe. 3, coincidence. I ran into my first best friend at the bus stop. That was a coincidence. I didn't really plan it. We saw each other every day for long enough, and I'm sure we said, "Oh, do you play baseball? Do you like football? Do you ride bikes?" And then that ended up creating a budding friendship. The opposite of that is core values, core beliefs, and core aspirations. 3 of the reasons many early friendships don't last is because they weren't based on what you actually value. They're just based on where you lived. Or they're based on the fact that you didn't want to be bored, or the fact that there weren't that many options. I think now, more than ever, as you grow up, so if you're listening to this and you're younger, I don't want to say you should expect to lose friends as you get older, but this is the reason why. And unless you have more in common than just where you grew up or what you used to do when you were kids, odds are the friendship is going to change in some way, shape, or form. And it goes back to the core values, core beliefs, and core aspirations. So that really is the thought in this episode. I didn't connect the dots on this until I was on this podcast. And then I thought about it and said, wow, if I lived in a different neighborhood, I most likely never would have known those kids.
Definitely.
We wouldn't have been as good of friends. And this is the other thing. When I made friends with them, and then I made friends with their friends, they all lived pretty close. They were just a walk on the other side of where they lived. So that just proves the concept here.
And so for everyone listening, I hope that you're thinking about your childhood. I hope you're thinking about how many of your friends were geography. How many of your friends were convenience? And then how many of your friends really were aligned based on mutual goals, mutual core values, mutual core beliefs? I'm going to name the first names of my friends growing up, only first names. Keith, Kiki, Mark, Ian, David, Chris, Erica, Katie, all neighbors. Those were all my neighbors. We had a big neighborhood, honestly. We had a huge neighborhood growing up, and I was friends with, we used to go to the bus stop as well, and everyone would be waiting for school, and some of us would wrestle. We used to play Star Wars, so we would play like pretend lightsabers. And it was sticks. We didn't have actual lightsabers. And then eventually we went and bought lightsabers.
Did you win? Were there winners, or was it just a...
We have choreographed some excellent lightsaber battles for the Star Wars fans out there. I do have a lightsaber battle with Kiki that I, to this day, remember and have memorized. It's actually quite good. But anyways, the point here is most of my friends growing up were geography. Now, one thing that I will say is that once the core values started to take hold, I'll give one example. I used to play Halo 1. So for those of you who remember Halo, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a very, very famous video game. But all of my closest friends in high school were Halo players. I was a semi-pro Halo gamer. I went to tournaments and blah, blah, blah. So, and at one point I was one of the top players in the world, and all of my friends loved Halo. Is that because everyone loves Halo? No. That's because I loved Halo, and naturally the law of attraction attracts other people who have similar passions. You know, if you love personal development books, you're going to most likely join book club. Or you're far more likely, I should say. Because in book club, what do? It's a bunch of other people who are also super passionate about personal development books. You know, if you listen to this podcast, you're obviously into personal growth, holistic self-improvement for dream chasers. You obviously identify as someone who has dreams, or at least wants to. All of this is based on mutual passions, mutual core values, mutual goals, mutual core aspirations, mutual core beliefs. And I wonder to myself, we take ourselves through so much mud and so much turmoil and so much challenge when it comes to losing friends. I know I did. I still to this day have so much junk, both positive, amazing, nostalgic emotions, and then some negative emotions too when it comes to all of my past friendships. And it was after 26 that I just went all in and decided, you know what? Personal growth is my life. Maximizing my own unique potential and helping others do the same is what my life's going to be about. And anyone who wants to in on that will be aligned, and anyone who doesn't won't. And that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. And as I've grown and developed and learned and been in a bunch of different rooms with a bunch of different people from a bunch of different countries, I just realized that that is the one through line of every relationship in my life, including my relationship with Emilia. She's more into personal growth than any human I've ever met in my entire life. So whatever it is for you, reflect back. Look at, maybe I beat myself up about that relationship ending or that relationship having a falling out, when in reality, maybe it wasn't that aligned. Not that it wasn't a wonderful person. Not that you didn't have good times. I had tons of good times with tons of great people. Seriously, it was a absolute blast, and sometimes it was mayhem. But I still have those memories, and just because it was aligned back then doesn't mean it's aligned now. And am I still beating myself up for the fact that, I wish it would have worked, or I wish it would have blah, blah, blah. Free yourself from this responsibility to make things aligned that might never have been. Or maybe they were when you lived next door. Maybe they were when you both loved Star Wars and went to the movies together and rode your bikes together and played scooters together. Played scooters.
Say, you better watch it.
Scooters.
Riding scooters is pretty serious business.
It is. Did you ever do inline skating?
Yeah, I think I tried it for a short. I went through, I did
skateboarding,
inline skating, scootering, and then I was big into BMX for a while.
Oh, you did BMX. I never did the BMX. I did inline. I did skateboard. Mark had a half pipe. One of my friends growing up had a half pipe, and then snowboarding, skiing and snowboarding. All my friends snowboard. All my friends scootered. All my friends rode bikes. All my friends loved these things. Are we friends because we all love these things? Or, more importantly, Kev, did they all love those things because one of us loved those things and we all influence each other? And that's what you learn as you get older. Kevin and I are 33, 34 years old now, and it's like very clear looking back. Oh, yeah. That's not on us. We just don't BMX bike anymore. We don't skateboard anymore. We don't, I still play basketball with Emilia, but all my friends in college loved basketball. I used to play intramural basketball. I used to play pickup basketball every other weekend, right? It's just you like attracts like. It's important.
I told this a while ago. I was at the gym in the boxing room, and I was listening to an artist by the name of Mike. And this guy came in. He was going to use the boxing room with me. He's like, dude, I love this song. I said, oh, you like Mike? And he's like, yeah, man, I have a tattoo of Mike. And I was like, oh, wow, that's okay, awesome. This guy is super nice, like just an awesome, awesome person. Loves mixed martial arts, loves lifting heavy, probably likes similar music. That is somebody I could definitely be friends with based on the core. That's not really any of those things. I guess it's just core
values.
I guess. Core interest, I'll say.
Core interests. There you go.
Core interests. That's somebody that I can definitely make friends with. Core passions. Or podcasters. There's a reason we're friends with podcasters, because we have the same understanding. When I played baseball, I got new friends. I still had a lot of the older friends I had too, but I got new friends, and it was based on the fact that I spent way more time with them. We valued baseball. We were growing up together. We were dating. We were learning things about life. And then after high school, that's pretty much the people I spent time with. And as we got older and as things changed, some of those people got closer to me. Other people, unfortunately, fell away, and I reallocated time. But that kind of just is par for the course.
I saw on Facebook an old friend of mine who I used to see all the time. Wonderful person. I actually think she listens to the show, by the way.
Hello.
And
if you're listening.
I saw hello to this person, although she wouldn't be able to know that it was her, although she might after this. And I saw her with an ex-girlfriend of mine, and they were really close back when we were dating. And I saw her profile picture was with her recently, and I was like, oh, they spent the 4th of July together. Cool. I can't believe they're still friends. That's awesome. And I had that moment of, they must have something still in common that they are still connecting over, And my question for you, Kev, but also for every listener that is watching or listening to this, what's your take, Kev, on... Because I think in the past, I was like, oh, that relationship didn't work out. Intimate relationship. But in hindsight, isn't it very clear that they're not supposed to work out?
100%. Yeah.
What's your take on that?
That's one of the reasons I talk as much as I do when it comes to relationships, because it's this episode in a nutshell. Just because you used to be friends does not mean you were friends for the right reasons. And if you don't understand the reasons, it's really hard to actually understand the friendship.
What if you're making long-term friendships based on short-term passions?
I told you this recently. I said there was somebody that we mutually know. Alan and I know this person and this group of people. And I said they just posted that they were in, I don't know, Mexico or Cabo or somewhere really nice. I think Cabo was in Mexico. Some tropical place. And they were all hanging out by the pool, having drinks. And I said there was a little piece of me that was jealous for a couple seconds of, that would be really cool. It would be really cool to do that. But I don't really have anybody in my life that would want to do that. And I'm okay with that. It was a very quick moment of that. It's not like that's really what I want to do.
That was by design.
Yeah. It was to a couple things. One, to make me grateful for what we have. And also, I think that's just a nostalgia thing of, well, that would be interesting if life was that way, and nothing against that. But it made me think about it.
Hi, my name's John Laredo, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to Kevin Palmieri. I had reached out to him. He had been referred to me when I had shared with a friend of mine some interest in doing a podcast, and he said, you've got to use Kevin. He's fantastic. He's the best around. He'll get you started and off the ground and and soaring high in no time. And take it from somebody who knows nothing about podcasting other than maybe saying a few things. But as far as behind the scenes, the startup, everything, I knew nothing. Kevin was phenomenal in terms of leading me through the whole process, and not just easy to work with, but really, really knows his stuff. A great combination between leading me through all the stuff I had no idea what I was doing, but also really listening to me and understanding what it was I was trying to accomplish and what my vision is. So whether you're looking for somebody to help you and get you started, or somebody, as I've done, where I'm putting it entirely in his hands because I've got total trust and confidence in him, and he is a true pro and easy to work with, any of those ends of the spectrum, you're gonna have a lot of success and a lot of fun working with Kevin. Trust me. Thanks.
I used to have that. I had a group of people that we grew up with that I was friends with since I was a kid, and that whole group still spends time together.
Yeah.
And I remember my ex-girlfriend, she was so jealous of that. I remember she said, Alan, I don't have friends like you do. I wish that I still had like that core group of friends that we were friends as kids. And I tried to tell her back then, but I didn't understand this back then. I tried to say, it's not what you think. It's not all it's cut up to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. And these people would, do anything for me, quote unquote, because we all grew up together. But honestly, I got to say this, and I'll be the first of this friend group maybe to say it, but we were all holding each other back for sure. Because we're, to the last episode, old identity. I mean, come on, we played Halo together in your basement. Like, we're definitely overly judging each other. I remember one of my new friends came into my life, and I want all the listeners thinking about their childhood as well. One of my new friends came into my life, and he said, you have got to get away from them.
Yeah.
You are being, like, because they were all a lot of them were very unkind when I decided to carve a different path. And I get it, right? Why aren't you spending time with us anymore? Why don't you care about us anymore? Blah, blah. The conclusions they drew were I didn't care about them anymore, which isn't true. I just cared more about this other path I was taking. And I think for our listeners, maybe give yourself the permission slip to, I wish that I had given myself the permission slip to kind of just let go of that, because I had a moment recently, Kev, where I look back at some of those old photos and it's like, oh yeah, there's no way you could have achieved your dreams and been in that friend group. It's just not a thing. It's really not. And I wish I could articulate this better. I don't know if I can. It's so clear in hindsight that you can't achieve this result with that group of people. Can you try to articulate why that is? I don't know if I'm good at explaining why that is.
Why you can't accomplish certain things with certain people?
Your friend group is absolutely 100% the determining factor of a lot of your success or failure in life in any arena, health, wealth, and love. Self-belief is number one, hands down, because without that, you really can't achieve much. After that, it's entirely your friend group. And in my old friend group, while they're wonderful people and they have all reached a certain level of success, it's very, very clear that a lot of the path that we've carved, you and I, there's no way we could have also been enmeshed in all that.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Because depending on what you're doing, everything is drastically different than what other people are doing. It's just the...
Well, you've always been bodybuilding when no one else was, and doing fitness shows before anyone else in your friend group. And
I don't know if I'm realizing more than ever. I've never really been that afraid of being alone. So I tried not to delude myself into saying I'd rather be around people that aren't great for me rather than being just by myself.
What do you mean? Say again.
I would rather be alone than be surrounded by people that aren't that good for me. I would just rather be alone because I don't want to delude myself into thinking...
Is that because of your fear of failure? Like you were kind of like, well, I'm not going to be able to succeed.
I don't think consciously, no. I just think it was... If I think about it logically, if you don't add that much to my life, I'm probably better off without you. If you add a level 3 and you subtract a level 7, that's a -4. I'm better off with 0.
Very logical.
I think that's kind of always how I've been when it comes to that. I don't know where that comes from, but just to Alan's point, if you just said we talked a lot of trash about each other, we made fun of each other, that was kind of the way the friendships were built. It's going to be very, very challenging later on for somebody to get hyper mature and then be super vulnerable. None of those relationships were built on vulnerability.
That's a fact.
And
that's got to be one of the reasons why it so clearly never could have stayed.
That is one of my favorite quotes, is the level of vulnerability within a relationship is usually connected to the level of quality of the relationship. I really believe that. You and I have a very vulnerable
can't be authentic without vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you grow and change and evolve, and this will be a stupid, simple example, but I remember one of my friends came to me. He's like, dude, you hate skim milk. And I remember being like, no, I did when we were kids.
Mm.
He's like, you hate skim milk. Like, come on, be real. Like, this is just fitness thing, right? Like, you really hate skim milk. It's like, no, I actually love the fact that there's 9 grams of protein per cup and no fat and all carbs. It's perfect. I love skim milk. Now, do I love the taste of skim milk? Maybe not, right? But it's that old identity, right? It's like our friendship was somewhat built on something that's no longer true for us.
Well, it was built on tearing each other down, in a way.
In some cases,
Imagine, okay, that's the pushback you get for drinking skim milk. Never mind if you want to quit your job and go all in on your dreams. That's why
I know.
That's why a lot of our friendships, going back to the identity thing, the identity that you used to have is often the identity that people remember you as, and it's very hard for them to see you in a new light. I think that's why it's easier to get new friends, because they see you as the person that you are today, not the person that you used to be. Go on.
I think I just had a breakthrough, and maybe this is obvious to all of our listeners. If it's not, this will be a breakthrough for you as well. Particularly, and again, I'll speak from my own experience as a man. Men tend to be young boys tend to be extremely making fun of each other. Like a lot of my friend group growing up, we like made fun of each other, like a lot. Yeah. And I wish that I hadn't participated so much in that, because it creates no psychological safety to actually change. You get so stuck in, oh, well, if I do this, that person's going to make fun of me. And I had this moment that was about skim milk.
Right, that's what I'm saying. One of the least important
things ever.
Yeah,
I remember, I'll share the story very briefly. Sorry to interrupt you, Kevin. I had this friend who was super in shape. And shout out to Nate. Nate was in great shape. And I brought him into my huge friend group at one point. And, you know, I threw these parties and barbecues and bonfires. Lots of bonfires on the lake. It was awesome. But he brought, like, chicken breast to cook on the grill. And he was the only one in my friend group that was at that level of fitness. And he got made fun of by my like, who brings grilled chicken to the party? And I remember thinking to myself, like, that's why he's in better shape than all of you. I would bring grilled chicken to a party for sure. But if he actually cared about what they think, he'd be in so much trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You kind of have to free yourself from that. Whatever, if you got made fun of growing up, I don't think I realized until recently how much that affected me. Like, I was so Emilia said, like, you were so made fun of. Even your own family, like, makes fun of you, and then you join them in making fun of you. And you're like 10 times more than they are. And I never really let that in until I started, like, realizing that in all my clients. And I see this everywhere now. And I'll think of this one friend anonymously who that whole friend group is kind of mean to. And I always said to him, like, dude, you could easily take him. You should, like, put him down at some point. Seriously. Like, you're, like, jacked, you're good looking. Like, that's why they make fun of you. I used to say this. At the end of the day, if you're being made fun of, first of all, them. Seriously. Like, I'm swearing in this episode, so production team, please make this explicit. I'm serious. If you are being bullied, you have got to get out of it. That will hold you down more than I can possibly articulate.
Expectations of others. This is my next level nugget. The expectations of others are very, very, very dangerous if it's more important for you to stay in alignment with the expectations and not create the reality that you desire. That really is what it is. The expectations of others is, what is this person going to say if I do this? I remember I had somebody say, so when my wife and I, for Taryn, we reconnected and we started dating, I took her to New Hampshire. I took her on a trip within a month of us reconnecting. And somebody gave me crap for it. They're like, you just reconnected. You got to take it easy. And I said, no, I don't. I know what I'm doing. Like, trust me. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to marry this woman. Trust me. I know what I'm doing here. Trust me. I got this. I'm good. But there was a little piece of me that was afraid that I was going to get that pushback. That the expectation is that you won't do that. So therefore, when you do that, I have to give you some sort of feedback. I really think that's all it is. It's almost like you're supposed to go on this street, but you went on a different street. Why'd you go on that street? You're supposed to go on this street. Everybody goes on this street. We always used to go on this street, and we go on this street. Why are you on the other street? I don't want to go on that street anymore.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you do, that's for you. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would never crap on you for wanting to do that. Why are you crapping on me? Because you're doing something different.
Yeah, but I don't think we make fun of people.
No, but
we grew out of that young.
Yeah.
I used to when I was young, but
you've also been bullied, so you know what it's like.
It's the worst.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
When you get bullied, I've been bullied, and I've definitely bullied. I've talked about that in the past. Not a ton, but more than I am proud of, for sure.
That's gotta be one of the number one things that hold people back. I mean, it is fear of judgment. 100%. Your fam bam, like I'm telling you, I have yet to meet a client who doesn't have this. What we're talking about right now, I'm telling you, you're probably the most free of it as anyone I've ever met.
My circle's very small. That's
very
by
small.
design.
Yeah.
It's by design.
And I think you grew up without a ton of what I would call tendrils. It's like, okay, I don't think you were necessarily, we talked about this in the last episode, I don't think other people had a ton of expectations for you.
Yes.
And so I think because of that, I was on book club, and shout out to Tiff. Tiff on book club, she was talking about how, doctor, lawyer, engineer, failure. And she's an engineer like me. And we were talking openly about I think our parents were unconsciously wanting to be seen as successful through their kids. And how much that got on us. And then we did a poll in book club. I love book club. Where we got how many people, you brought this psychological tendency to me. I've studied all the cognitive biases, and Kevin brought up these two that I've never heard of. And then I brought them to Emilia, and she was like, how did he find these? I've been studying cognitive biases my whole life.
I watch weird stuff on YouTube.
Apparently. So it's called BIRGing, basking in reflected glory, which essentially means when you're more successful, people want to be around you. Our team won. It's not your team. You just live in that town, that kind of thing. It's called BIRGing. And again, nothing wrong with that. But parents that are BIRGing, I put a poll in book club. How many people think their parents were basking in your success? And how much that can control a child? Because they're basically only getting approval unconsciously when they are what the parent wants them to be. I had that for sure. And again, a lot of this is unconscious, but I don't think you had a ton of that.
One of the best things that ever happened is I didn't have high expectations because I wasn't forced to go to college. I wasn't forced to do anything I didn't really want to do. And it gave me a lot of opportunities to take many risks that other people didn't have the privilege to take. But I do remember my mom used to take my car. When I started making money, my mom would take my car to work. I had a nice Mustang back in the day. And then I ended up buying a stick shift and she couldn't drive it. She was very sad. But I'm sure that was basking. That was a little bit basking in reflected glory.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good episode.
It was.
You said the F word.
I had to.
Well,
I hate bullies. I respect it so much.
I respect it.
That's the one thing that be whatever you want to be, except for when you are against other people being what they want to be. That's a big thing for me.
It was a good episode.
It was. Strong work.
You as well. Next Level Nation. As we mentioned in the previous episode, Alan is doing free listener calls. Mm-hmm. I've been calling them next level breakthrough sessions.
I am him.
You are him. Mm-hmm. You are Jeff. If you are interested in that, maybe you've been listening to the show for a long time. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you just tuned in and you're thinking, I'd like to hop on the phone on the Zoom machine with one Alan Lazaros. Sorry to disappoint you. I won't be there. Alan will be there. Yeah, I know. It's not the best, but it could be worse. It's a free 30-minute call. It's not a sales call. It's just, let's get to know you. And you can bring questions, comments, concerns. Maybe you're trying to make a decision. Maybe you feel stuck somewhere. Alan can add value. The link to his calendar will be in the show notes. While I was here, 3 people booked. So the more, the merrier. I cannot promise this will be around forever. In fact, I'm certain it won't, just because it's going to be more challenging to do this as we become more successful. But again, at the end of the day, the reason we are successful is because of you, if you are listening.
Shout out to one of our listeners. I already shouted her out once, Tiff. She has officially started to embark on her dreams because her corporate career is what she has articulated as not aligned. And I say only first name for a reason, but she is a huge part of Next Level Nation. And so if you want to be in a group of people that are taking leaps of faith towards their own brighter future, that is the place. You will not get bullied there. That's the one thing we can promise you. You will be respected, you will be supported, and you will not be bullied. And so if you want a psychologically safe space to actually be yourself, which honestly I think is rarer than I ever thought, Next Level Nation is the place. So click the link below. It's totally free, and we hope to see you there.
Tomorrow for episode number 1403, one piece of advice we wish we knew earlier. Alan doesn't even know what we're going to talk about in that episode. So I hope he also wishes he knew it earlier.
I'm sure that I do.
We'll find out. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Break free from judgment. Next Level Nation.